still do 7 NUFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching. The return of the Entertainers is a walking football match that takes place at Gateshead Leisure Centre on Saturday the 6th of June 2026 in aid of Age UK North Tyneside. Sponsored by Shout Digital and Darren Baldwin Funerals. Tickets available from our website or from Voucher. There's also an opportunity for you to play in the game, either with or against the legends. Go to our website nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk for more details. 29th of January 2027 sees an evening with Beardsley, Cole and Ferdinand at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House, hosted by John Gibson. Tickets are on sale now from the box office 0191 243 1171 or tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk or directly from us at our website. Northern Horizon is a Blake 7 convention in aid of Age UK North Tyneside. Tickets available from our website. And Rebel Base Northeast, a Star Wars fan convention, Sunday the 2nd of August at the Copthorne Hotel. Tickets available on our website. The Craze, Fred Dinage, Ronnie, Reggie and Me takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House, box office 0191 243 1171 or tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. That takes place Wednesday the 11th of November at 7:30. We've also got some books available on our website. Will Scott's popular Entertainers book, 92 to 97, Kevin Keegan's Legacy, is available now. And The Promoter and the Photographer, 25 years of bringing the stars to Tyneside, all proceeds going to Age UK. All books available, nufcmatters.co.uk.
Attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again, but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, the only thing that makes us all believe.
Good evening and welcome along to NUFC Matters. It is the three Amigos on Friday, slightly earlier. The perfect way to kickstart your Newcastle United weekend. We will be finishing at 6 o'clock tonight, so an early start, an early finish, but still got time to cram in quite a lot in tonight's show. If we have time, we'll fit in the tweet of the week as well. And yes. Where do we start? Well, let's start with a positive. Let's start with the result against PSG, the reigning Champions League champions, Mitch. A really good result. And I think, if our WhatsApp group is anything to go by, I think probably everyone's WhatsApp group went mental when they saw the lineup, the team. But trying to question what on earth he was doing. Was he writing his own suicide note? And, there was loads of different people, across social media coming up with all kinds of bizarre theories as to what the lineup was going to be. But Newcastle United's lineup was good enough to get a 1-1 draw, and really, with the chances in the second half, should have won it. But a good result. Didn't get us into the last 8, unfortunately, automatically. The last 16 automatically, sorry. We'll have to go through a playoff, and of course, we're playing Karabag. It's been announced now. The draw's been done. But yeah, great result, Mitch. Good performance. And I guess it's just what the doctor ordered.
And if you'll allow us 2 or 3 little rants here.
Yep, go for it.
Okay. Firstly, for those who I've seen saying, well, it doesn't matter whether we drew or whether we lost 6-0, we'd have still had the same result in the draw. That's bollocks. Because this is about momentum, this is about results, this is about how we feel as a fan base, how we feel as a club, and what we take out of this going forward. I was ready after the weekend to lay in Eddie a little bit. I had a rant pretty much written in my head about how no plan B. Plan B is more of plan A with different personnel. How Spanish managers seem to have the Indian sign over them. If it's not Emery, it's Iraola. If it's not Iraola, it's Guardiola. And if it's Guardiola, it's Arteta. I even had a theory about how and why that is the case. And it's based on the fact that Barcelona and Real Madrid play very similar systems. And they used to try to hold on to their lives against those and counteracting those systems. And then they come up against Eddie playing a similar system. And it's easy. And I think he was outdone tactically at the weekend. That 2 holding with 3 behind Watkins, where they rotated players around to always create a numerical advantage in certain parts of the pitch. I think genuinely we got done by that a little bit. But, you know, that's that game, not the game we're talking about now. When that team came out, that absolutely slapped myself and anybody else with there's no plan B in the face, because you couldn't get any further from the regular 4-3-3 that he says he plays. He even tried to kid on the day in the press conference that it was just a variation of what he plays. Was it buggery? That was a back 3 with Hall and Maley as wing backs, and I'm going to tell you now, you'll not see a better wing-back pairing in the Champions League this season. They were nothing short of magnificent. And then you've got players like Ramsey, who I'll talk all day long. I think he takes up fantastic positions in the midfield. He never refuses a pass to himself. He'll put himself in hospital with a pass one day. But I thought his work rate and his endeavour was superb. Willock, I was on the verge of asking him to be substituted at half-time, and then his work rate got the bloody equalising goal. And then, do you know what? After that happened, he grew into it. He became even more relevant in the game. And that's fair play to him. We've needed that from him. We've needed something from him. We've needed a spark. And he's probably needed that himself. There's not many teams will go to Paris and come away with a 1-1 draw, feeling hard done by this team this season. Even more so when it is quite apparent we were playing with compromised referees and assistant referees. And I hate going to this. I really do. But I'm sorry. That's a referee in a compromised position. I know that there was stories about him being caught at a sex party or something prior to the game. But there's even, there's worse than that going on. When you look at what happened to Coot, and the way that Coot was hung out to dry with a video from so-called friends, that was somebody else who had wanted compromise on him and then knew that once the Pandora's box was opened on them, they'd find other things. That's quite apparent in the aftermath of that. And you can't tell me that there's not referees compromised across Europe in a similar way. That penalty, a handball to a handball, so one of the handballs is given. That's just bollocks. That's just honestly, that's the biggest pair of dangly bollocks you'll ever hang off a Christmas tree in your life. And I'll also point out that there's been a couple of frames of film suggesting that as Harvey Barnes was trying to put what would have been the winning goal in the last 5 minutes, the assistant referee was trying to raise his flag.
Yep.
So you can't tell me that's not a referee group that wasn't compromised in some way, shape or form. I'll not have it. After we've had 2 experiences of that in Paris now, there's something rotten. And we have a go at our referees week in, week out when they get things wrong and when they're all over the place. But there was things happened on that pitch that I can't explain. How did Elanga get booked for being fouled? He was fouled badly and then got booked because the player that fouled him hurt his bloody Jap's eye or whatever. He was rolling around on the floor holding something, but that was nothing to do with the tackle that he put in on Elanga, and then Elanga got booked. And I think we had a number of things going on. I think as our players and my management team were very restrained and more restrained than they could have been. Dan Burn put in a proper captain's display. Yes, Burn's high foot on a high foot when there was no heads involved and nobody anywhere near a ball. And yeah, absolutely. And I think we have to come away from that game with a feeling of it feels like win, because I think we all know what we were fighting. It wasn't just the European champions. And our chairman was sat with the chairman and owner of PSG, and I hope words were had at full time in a very friendly and off-the-cuff manner, but certainly not impressed. Not impressed with the way, if this is the way that UEFA officiating is going, come back PGM, well, all is forgiven. You know, it's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And I hate going on about it because it belittles almost what we achieved. And it belittles almost, you know, the effort that was done. And the fact that we lined up in an unusual formation. I loved Elanga in that sort of free Roman role. That's the Roman role. Yes, not to mention that as well. That's the role I've sometimes said I would like to see Anthony Gordon in. Actually, no. I think I would like to see Elanga in that role more. And I think we've had lads put a shift in there who said to us all, yes, we're in your squad, but we deserve a little bit more than that. And I think they've given Eddie the proper manager's headache, and fantastic. That's great. Absolutely brilliant. But like I say, the result on Wednesday is more than just about the result against PSG. It's tied into how I think we all felt coming away from the Aston Villa game and then going forward for the rest of the season. I think the challenge is for Newcastle United, be that team more often, please, and not the other one. And I think we've said this a lot this season, and I think this is the battle that we have internally is we know we can be pretty much anything we want to be. We've been the match of the European champions quite easily. We have a young lad who's played at right wing back, who's played most of his career in midfield. He played a couple of games at right back after one training session and looked like he never went away from there. He's played 10, 15 minutes at centre back and looked cool as a cucumber. And in spite of giving away a penalty, which was just, I'm sorry, never a penalty. The day is long, and as long as I've got a hole in my arse, he stood up from that. He chucked the best left midfielder in Europe and probably the third best left midfielder in Europe at him. And he stood strong and gave them barely a kick. You know, this is what we've got in our hands right now. And we should be able to take what we've come away from that PSG. Whether it matters anything that 1-1 or losing 6-0 would have got to the same place. What we're taking out of that result is so much more. And I think they deserve every little bit of praise for it. Because it would have been the easy thing to do, to rock up, take the beating, put the white flags out, particularly after the disappointing result against Villa at the weekend, and just put the white flag out. Look, the numbers we had out here, we didn't have massive numbers out because it was midnight kick off here, but we still had about 50, 60 in we were back in UBK this weekend, this midweek. And the referee was under scrutiny, obviously, from early doors, and it was frustrating. There was a few other people in the bar watching other games, and even they were coming over going, what the hell's that referee on for your game? You know, when you've got Arsenal fans and Real Madrid fans coming over saying, well, we're watching our game, but this just looks like a shambles, by the way, it says a lot.
Yep, certainly does. Steve, 1-1 against PSG. It was a great game to watch. You know, one which certainly the purists will have enjoyed, and the neutrals.
You know what, Steve? It was fascinating because it was something different from Newcastle United. We obviously were without Bruno, without Joel in midfield. We wondered how Tonali would be able to cope with bringing yet another formation into the middle, new partners. But what we did was we didn't go out and do the same thing. You know, obviously we had a back five, which was interesting, but we didn't go out and try the same sort of football as we do with a 4-3-3. We played a more contained game. We relied on our intelligence and our sort of speed of thought rather than getting into an aggressive midfield battle that we were always going to lose for the very reason that Mitch has already spoken about, which was the refereeing, the shocking performance that we saw, some absolutely dubious decisions. But I'm not going to take anything away from any of those players. I'm going to praise Ramsey and I'm going to praise Willock because at the end of the day, they stepped up. They didn't, you know, we've seen it before with players when they get an opportunity, they don't grasp it. But those two players stepped up to the mark and showed that they are good footballers. They played an expansive game, if you like, controlled when it needed to be. Very quick on the break, very quick in releasing the pass when the pass was on, holding it when it wasn't. Ably supported by the two players playing wing backs. I thought Alanga had probably moving on towards his best game for Newcastle. Certainly showed that again. There seems to be a new player in there, which is good. What they've got to do, however, and that they are all big positives, they've now got to keep it going. They've got to continue to prove us wrong whenever they get the opportunity. Eddie showed them that he had the confidence in them, and I think we were very, very well drilled. Let's just remind, as Mitch did earlier, let's just hammer home that little piece about the whole situations that we've witnessed against PSG. You know, you look at the way they're set up. I mean, you look at Al Khalifa, their chairman, president, whatever you want to call him. You know, he's also the head of BN Sports. He's involved with UEFA. He's involved with FIFA. You know, he's got his finger in every football pie you can possibly hope to meet. I think, if I remember rightly, I think he actually got done for forging documents at one point to do with a particular deal regarding the World Cup, and basically got a slap on the. If that had been anyone else, he would have been out on his ear, and would never have been seen again. And he ended up with something like, I don't know, 24,000 Swiss franc fine, which is about, I don't know, £10.50 or something. Absolutely ridiculous. But this is what we were always up against. And this is symptomatic of European football. And you just have to look at the way that the coefficient has dished out the money in in the European League. We've finished in 12th, and we're getting just over 51 million euros. There are teams that finish below us that are sitting on 80 and 90 euros because they've been there before, because they've got a good coefficient range of points. So because they've been regularly in Europe, they come into a competition, a brand new competition every season, which isn't a brand new competition every season. They're already on a higher platform than the rest of the teams who qualify, like us and Aston Villa, for example. You know, we qualified through merit just as they did, and yet 9 of the 10 teams, I think, above us have got somewhere in the region of 30 or 40 million euros more than us for reaching the same stage in the competition, or being in the last 16, let's put it that way. And you're thinking to yourself, well, how does that work? You know, what's going on there? And it's because, you know, they're regulars. You know, it's like walking into the club, isn't it, and finding out because the guy alongside you is a regular in the club and comes in 3 times a week, and you only go in once a week, that he gets his pint for £1, you know, and you're having to pay £5. You know, it just doesn't make sense, and it's part of the corrupt setup that we have with UEFA, and the way that you know that it's now being done in plain speech because we're seeing it all. But let's not forget that we said on this a couple of weeks ago that we saw no reason why Newcastle couldn't go on a run. I'm just looking at it. We've had 12 games, 6 wins, 3 draws, 3 defeats. A defeat against Man City in a cup, so you can take that out if you want. We had a defeat against Villa, which we all know was a very, very poor performance. But having said that, probably could have gone either way. You know, the injury to Bruno, I think, sort of knocked us off our perch a little bit, and then, you know, some poor finishing and some dire performances all around. And a very, very flat atmosphere inside St James's Park, which I'm sick to death of hearing about people saying that we need a section, we need a standing, we need the Gallagher end all standing. This will change the atmosphere. You're hearing every excuse in the book now, and basically, you know, it's getting on me tripe, to be perfectly honest. Hearing about the atmosphere or the lack of atmosphere, and it's the same people who said we need a standing section and now say we need a bigger standing section, and now seeing we need the Gallagher all standing. You know, then it's only a matter of time before we hear that we need the away fans further down. It's just perpetual. This has been going on for years, and it's getting on me tripe. When I look at those last, you know, 12 games that we played, the performance against Man United, that was a big disappointment for all the possession that we had. Just couldn't break them down. I think the Wolves game again, it was just really, really dire. But apart from that, we've done relatively well in our 12 games. And this, I think, was probably of all the games, was the best team performance of the lot. You know, so we've got the 12 games and we're still putting in team performances. The squad looks as though it's together like nothing before, in terms of, you know, we've seen it before when the backs have been against the wall, and we've sort of gone into that sort of depressive side a little bit. But I think that game reminded me very much of that away performance against Arsenal in the Cup, when we beat them 2-0. where Arsenal thought that they were, going to run away with it, and I think we also thought there was the possibility that they would run away with it, and we went totally opposite. We played some wonderful contained football, and I think if people want to look back and see what the team was that particular day, I think that was another performance without Bruno. Actually, I think Bruno was injured that particular game, one of the few, and I think that's probably I think when people talk about the games that Bruno's missed, it's only been league games where we haven't picked up points when he's been in the team. That particular cup match reminded me very much of what I witnessed on Wednesday night. And praise to Eddie. Completely bamboozled us, and I think he also completely bamboozled the PSG manager. I think he does have a hex on him at the moment, which is fascinating, isn't it? Absolutely fascinating. So all round, all good, I think. Great week.
George, for a happy clapper, you must be delighted.
Absolutely. There's one word that's missing, and it gets missed an awful lot when we're talking about our team. Pride. I saw players who were just not playing for the team. They were playing for their own personal pride. Anthony Gordon's interview before the match, he didn't bat off any questions. He just took them all and gave straight answers, and that was somebody that was speaking with pride. And I think we saw a lot of pride in our team the other night. I've got to say I'm delighted though, because as the happy clapper, anybody who saw last Monday night's fans forum, you'd think they'd visited a bloody funeral. That's how I felt when it was over. Good God, the forecast of the scores for Wednesday night, 2-0, 3-0, even somebody said 5-0, for God's sake. Why? That's just totally against the grain for me. Yes,
it was like a wake with no sandwiches or beer, George.
Oh, it was worse than that, Steve. It was worse than that. And yeah, I know some of them laugh at me and think I'm half Barney. Well, I am half Barney because I'm black and white, and I have pride in my team, and I want the team to do well. But goodness gracious, if football made me as miserable as some of them were on Monday night, I think I'd have to stop going, because I'd start biting my toenails and never mind my fingernails. Anyway, yeah, it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And having myself had a little go at Eddie on Monday night about West Ham thing, because the West Ham game, say what you like, it was awful. It was genuinely awful. And I think Steve and I said in the first 10 minutes that their middle four were going to swamp our middle three, and that's exactly what happened, basically. But yeah, the manager comes up with a master plan. It's quite amusing because Steve Wraith and I were actually just about finishing a show when he put the team out, and we looked at the team, and we were gasping a little bit, I think, Steve. And I
didn't
said,
know what to make of it.
Yeah, straight away I said, well, that's a back five. That's what he's going to do, and Miley and Hall will be the fullbacks, and it worked a dream. But it didn't just work a dream in terms of tactics. The players put it into action. That all played their level best. And he's absolutely right. If there is two better wing backs in the Champions League the other night than our two, I'd love to see them. I don't care who they play for. They ain't going to be better than those two young'uns that we've got. I go on about Lewis Bailey. Well, I'm delighted I do go on about him, because he's a boy who's playing like a man, well above his years. He's got skill, he's got energy, he's got strength. And after Wednesday, that handball could have destroyed his game before it even got started. That could have been the end of Lewis Miley in that game. He could have had a disaster, and we could have shipped a boatload. Did it bother him? Did it? Hell, he just shook himself down, got on with it, and joined in everything else. Great to see Elanga having a go again. Gordon tearing him apart when he came on. And I thought Simeone's description of Gordon after the match, I thought it's outrageous, but it's lovely that he's talking about one of our players. He compared Gordon to playing against Ronaldo. I mean, dear me, what a comparison. And I've had people say to me, he must have had a few glasses of wine. Gordon should have a penalty as well. I mean, he was brought down badly in that penalty area. And then across the pitch, we had Barnes chipping in a little bit. One thing I thought was the goal from the dead ball. Nobody's mentioned the part that Valdemar played in that free kick. Watch it again and see how he takes the two centre backs out of the game to let Dan Burn have a free header at that ball. He does it beautifully, and you can see it's deliberate, and it just all adds up to what was an absolutely fantastic performance by a team playing its heart out for us, for the fans, and couldn't get any better. It'll only get better when we're playing the final, because it's written in the stars. This happy clapper thinks that's where we're headed now, and knock me head off. Do what you like. I'm still going to be there at the end, and it would not surprise me if we frightened one or two more people, particularly at St James's Park. So yeah, fantastic Wednesday night. I'll stop there. I could go on all night, but as I say, turning from Monday, which felt like a bloody funeral, to Wednesday night was euphoric. It was great. I have to say that one or two of the lads who take the joke well, have had the grace to say, well, you get straight. Well, fine. That isn't that what football's about? But the people that were, 2-0, 3-0, 5-0, for God's sake. Well, if you really think that, what the hell are you doing supporting a team? Anyway, great. Let's have more. That's the important thing. We've got some tough away games to face. We don't need to worry about them if we play like that again. I don't care who's on the other side of the pitch. We could take what's coming with confidence, and especially as now Bruno's had time to get fit again and so on. So it was great. It was absolutely fantastic, and let's have more of it, lads.
Yep, good stuff. Lee Girdleston sent us an email. Lee, I did read your email. It's great. But I think after the PSG game, I'm not going to read it out tonight, but I will read the opening paragraph, which was, "Dear Steve and the Amigos, I hope you're all well. I've been watching your shows for well over half a decade now, and I just wanted to start by saying how much I've enjoyed them. For the most part, I find myself agreeing with your views, and I really value the balance and reason you bring to discussions around the club." Thank you, mate. Much appreciated. But your email, I don't think it's the night for that, especially with us only having, to be honest, not long. We've only got less than an hour now to cram everything else in. I do want to talk about something else which has come up in the news today, and bearing in mind as well that we, as we often do on here, we do mention that we get little tip-offs here, there, and everywhere. We were talking strips, if you remember, a couple of weeks ago on the Amigos. We classify Mitch as our strip aficionado. He's got some great contacts in that industry, and he wears them well, as you can see with these lovely. In fact, I am going to put him on full screen here. There we go. He's got a Mexico number on, or Mexico. There you go. It's very nice, mate. Very nice. And there has been a leak again today of Newcastle United's new strip. Get ready, folks, if you haven't seen it. You're either going to love it or hate it. Somebody said, is that a new signing? No, it's not. What's your thoughts on that then, Mitch? You did call it. You talked about the 3 strips, what they were going to be like, and then there was a few people knocked a few up and they came out. What about that?
Well, there was a picture earlier of Celtic's strip next season, and there was a strip behind it that was basically that one with the blue on the shoulders and the dark stripes with the thinner and black inside the white. It's pretty much as it was described. Bearing in mind, it was described to me by somebody who is not a strip designer, but as a buyer. And he's a buyer for a big group out here who are connected to Newcastle United. The hint might be the little yellow thing on the sleeve. And English isn't his first language. And so he wouldn't know to say the words barcode to me. So what he described the white stripes as was fussy. And I think that is fussy. If you look at the colours that are used, if you look at the colours that are set in the Adidas Pantone for us, the home colours are chalk white, black, and sky blue. That is Adidas Sky Blue. And it's the same colour that's on the heel tab of the Adidas Sambas. So it's the right colour. It's the right colours. Absolutely the right colours. And sort of fits with how I was described it would be. That it was black and white stripes, but fussy. And so had it been somebody like Craig Douglas describing it to us, he would have said word like barcode. But it wasn't Craig, it was somebody else. So it kind of fits with what I was told. And the more I look at it, the more it grows on us. The only other thing that we're dealing with here is Seller the shirt sponsor next season or not. But the way these things are developed and the way these things have to be designed, it's so far ahead of time that they've got to go with whatever they think at the time. If you remember when there was Derek was going on about when we had Virgin Money and they were scrambling to get a design together that fitted with the Virgin Money sponsorship, because it's all about timing. So take it with a pinch of salt that Sellers on that, but certainly for me it's in the right ballpark.
Okay, Steve, what's your thoughts on this this particular style, this particular top? I mean, I think from a reaction point of view, and I've stuck a poll in the chat, so please feel free, folks, to join in and just let us know, just to get a little idea. It's probably as controversial as this one, because I remember this coming out and everybody was foaming about that when it first came out. You know, people didn't like it. It was the barcode. It was the way that it was, the way that it was set. It wasn't right. It was doing away with tradition. People don't like change. What's your feelings on this one, Steve?
I like it. I think it's an excellent modern take on the plain black and white stripes. I was worried that we're going to have something that resembled TV interference, zigzags all over the place, and the stripes actually coming from the top shoulder down to on the left to the bottom shoulder on bottom hip on the right, and all sorts of crazy things, like ending up like a zebra on speed or something. But I quite like that. I don't know. As soon as I saw it, I thought that's fresh. It's modern. It's something that we've never tried before. Something we've never seen before. And we've spoken among our group and on the show about Adidas and what they've done with Juve over the years. And I've had many a conversation over the last half a dozen years with Mitch about the Juve tops, and the ones that he liked that I've said I thought were absolutely shocking, and vice versa. I've queried the use of the pink in the Juve top, and Mitch has put us right on a number of drunken times when I've mentioned it, that pink was one of their original colours, this type of thing. So I respect everything that Mitch knows about the historic nature of football tops. But for this one, for me, it's modern, it's fresh. And people are saying, "Oh, I'll not buy it." They will. Everyone will buy it because it's black and white, and because if it does come out and it's our new kit, we'll all be wearing it, regardless of what we think about it. Every time the new shirt design comes out, people go, "Oh, that's terrible. Oh, it's an embarrassment," and all that. but we still wear it, we still buy it, even if it takes us 3 months and, you know, people are seeing the lie of the land and how many people at the ground are wearing them and they decide they want to join in. Sponsor wise, yeah, I know exactly what the situation is with sponsors and how, you know, the lead up time it takes. And you're not going to put anything like that out when Salah are our current sponsors and display a new sponsor. The new sponsor details are going to come out when the club's good and ready. And who knows, it may well be Salah. We listened to an interesting interview. I think there's been the original interview from David Hopkinson, and then the one that he was talking at another podcast's event last week, where he talked about the merchandising and he talked about the commercialization of the football club and where we need to grow. You know what? We might end up with a shirt sponsor on the away kit that's different to the shirt sponsor on the home kit. You know, they might be challenging the Premier League to that type of thing. Who knows? There might be rules that come out that allow you to have a different shirt sponsor on the back than on the front, like they do in South America. You know, let's face it, clubs are going to be looking at all sorts of avenues, and the Premier League's going to be doing its damnedest to help as many clubs as possible raising revenue. So I think that there are, in the next couple of years, going to be loads and more opportunities for sponsorship. We don't want to get into the situation where, you know, they look like a walking advert, like an F1 driver, for example, with badges everywhere. But, you know, I can see the real, you know, sort of the back shirt advertising. I think what's going to be interesting about this is what the back does look like. If that's just a plain white back, that would be disappointing. I would like to think that they've come up with something that incorporates the stripes on the back as well and incorporates a number and that type of thing. We've seen it before where they stuck a shield on the back. I must admit I didn't particularly like that.
Steve, just a patch. If you put a patch, it encourages people to put a number in it because it doesn't look as good just as a square. That's
right. No reason why you can't do it. And as you lads know,
no rocket science there.
Yeah, back in the 2000s when we went into the Champions League for the first time. We had a strip, and on the back it was all stripes. And I was actually commissioned by a particular manufacturer to produce the black squares to print on the back of those shirts, which I did. I did them for Celtic, and I did them for Newcastle, and I did them for Manchester United. I think certainly did them for the Celtic one because they were playing Man United at the time, and they were rush jobs, and that was because the UEFA said that there had to be a way of distinguishing the number on the back of shirts, but that rule didn't apply in the Premier League. I don't know why we worry so much about the numbers. It's only for the commentator. You know, let's face it, there's not many of us can actually see the number on if we're watching the game on the telly anyway, or see the number on the back of the player's shirt when they're running around and you're sitting up in level 7. So it's a bit of a misnomer. But yeah, if the back is just a patch with a number on, fine. But you know, continue the stripes down the sleeves and continue the stripes down the back of the shirt and round the shoulders. Let's hope it's like that.
Different. It is different. I mean, I would wear that on a, you know, if you were going like on holiday, it's a kind of shirt you'd wear on holiday. I am an old traditionalist. I do prefer the black and white stripe. I've got to be honest. I'm also curious about what's happening with the badge. You know, there was lots of talk about the club badge changing. You know, is that going to happen still, or are we keeping with the badge that we've got on there?
My understanding is whoever was asked to do it internally made such a clusterfuck of it, they've popped that on hold for the moment.
Okay, good info.
The badges that we have, the modern, the 80s, the 70s, and the city crest with the grace of the city council are all in consideration, and that they like the 80s and 70s ones because they're not as complicated as the current one.
Yeah, it's interesting.
That because it was the complication that they talked about. Yet it's obviously that complex that they're going to continue it for at least another season, which makes you think that the test bed that they've done with some of the originals, with some of the older logos and the older badges on, have gone down so well.
Yes.
You know, if I was the club, I'd be thinking, well, why do we need to change?
Yes.
You know, we can
100%. We've got options in our armamentarium already that we can put onto whatever we want, whenever we want, with no licensing issues, and people love it and lap it up.
Exactly.
Just to keep people posted as well, we did a big thing last week about from John Joe's perspective, the passport, etc. I have just actually had an email back from David Hopkinson's secretary, executive assistant, Susan Burns. So thank you for that, Susan, if you are tuned in tonight. Rest assured, I will pass that on to Amanda and let's see what happens. But just to update everybody, it's live news as it happens. I won't divulge what's in the email, but thank you for that, Susan.
Thank you. For reaching out, for listening.
Yes, she just said, at the end of the day, I emailed David Hopkinson, as you all know, and I have had a reply back. So, Amanda, I'll pass that on to you, and I'll leave that to you, Amanda, to deal with. Great stuff. Thank you. George, getting back to the strip. What do you make of that?
My goodness, 80 years of support us, and guess what I think of that? It's bloody great. Absolutely great. I've got no problem with that. No problem at all. I was a bit worried when the first came out that it was just going to be the 3 broad stripes, and I'm not a fan of the broad stripes, but that breaks it up so nicely and encapsulates all the tradition. You know, people say that tradition and this, that tradition that. It's black and white stripes, and that's what I want to see, and that gives us everything I want. And with a proper crest and a logo on the front that we can sign up to is great. I think the lads are right to talk about what's on the back, because for me it would be traditional square with a red number on, and that really would be traditional for me. So I love it, Steve. I'd wear that tomorrow. It's a good one, and I think will come to be a one that we'll treasure. I think, to be perfectly honest. As to the badge, the lads are right. We don't need to dig into any other place than our own badges that we've had in the past if we want to change. If we really want to be traditional, then if the city's coming nice again and saying we can use the city's coat of arms, well, we've got the best of all worlds in my view, and that really it would be traditional. So no, love the strip and can't look, just look forward to seeing it, people wearing it on the pitch.
You know what, Steve? The only caveat I have on the strip is obviously it looks great on her. I'm just wondering what it'll look like on the majority of us in the Irish centre before the match and the strawberry after with our
those of us bronzed the dumbest.
Yes. We're getting back to size in here, lads. We're getting back to size in dangerous territory. Quick ad break. Back after this. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com, or contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to United Group Travel, our fanzine sponsor. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2-crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. Hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach. All excursions included. Their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Or telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Deposits from £50 per person. A big thanks to Media Arts. Their website, www.media-arts.co.uk, email info@media-arts.co.uk, or telephone 0191 637 5061. If you want to help support the channel, then you can click the subscribe button. We still do 7 shows a week. It is free. Hit the thumb up to like the video and click share to share to your social media. A big thanks to Sports Social Podcast Network. You can listen to us on the road, on this network, or by tuning into iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. You can also join the channel by hitting the join button on YouTube, or go to our website, nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. You can pay a one-off fee of £25 and you'll receive a membership card, a beer mat, a fridge magnet, a key ring, a badge, and a pen. £25, nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. Okay, quick disclaimer. All of these tweets are sent in by our viewers. None of them are the responsibility of me or the lads on this channel. We can filter them, but please, if you're easily offended, leave the room, switch the podcast off for 5 minutes, and then come back once we have finished. Nothing too offensive, but we don't want to offend anybody at home. I wanted to name my son Lance, but my wife said it was uncommon. I told her that in medieval days, people were named Lance a lot.
Oh, God.
And watching people freeze at the bus stop as I drive right by always makes me smile. It's half the reason I became a bus driver. And Elton John is worried about how retiring from touring will affect his waistline. For a start, it'll be goodbye normal jeans. Gives us a chance to sing, lads. And
You just want to sing, don't you?
yeah, been tracking the polar vortex along with Benny, my mate, this week. And I really want to know what incident led to this sign being necessary, said Jimmy. Tyres required. Yeah, strange, Jimmy. We will be happy to serve you from behind. Thank you. Please ask.
Well,
Mrs. And
could I have a reach
this,
around, please?
this might be the best number plate I've ever seen. Obi-Wan Kenobi. And tired of watching the douche with the guitar get the women? Become that douche. Great advert for guitar playing in a local neighborhood. Succulent bowel. Lowest prices are just the beginning. I mean, what is a succulent bowel? Is that a plant? I don't know. Is this real? And do not season the pigeons in America. Thank you, Jimmy, for that one. Finland is the world's most unfortunately named bread, Juicy Pussy. And the Prime Minister spoke to Andy Burnham on Monday and was in touch with him again on Tuesday. Have they took Craig David on in the Home Office, lads? I'm not sure. Cliff was born for this job, by the way. Cliffhanger, rock climbing instructor. And Drink Safri. Yes, he's another one, another victim of Facebook. Club Tropicana, drinks are free. They're clutching at straws now with these, aren't they? Mick and Joan have been waiting for this day ever since they won Bullseye in 1983. Good luck to them. And when hairy guys shave only their pubes and leave the rest. That's ridiculous. Why would he even take a photo like that at the vet? And what else can go wrong this year, lads? Well, and it was Australia Day this week. Put a shrimp on the barbie.
Jesus.
And it has been a few weather warnings, as we saw earlier with me mate Benny, and UK weather warning, widespread gales.
Yeah.
There are things you can't unsee, Steve.
There is. Christmas barely over, and already the shelves are full of Valentine's Day stuff. And I'm coming over. We should stop using walkie-talkies. Over. And breaking news, Donald Trump has just ended the war between the Beckhams. And in 2026, we will have flying cars. What do we have in 2026, lads? Do not eat this. If you've got any tweets, send them over to me, nufcmatterspodcast1892@gmail.com, or send them to the lads on the socials, and we will feature them on the show next week. That's why Moz has a mod, you see. It's a bowl with succulents in. Didn't know that, Moz. Yeah. Didn't know that. Excellent stuff. Okay, I told you this was going to be a lighter show. We've had a lot of doom and gloom over the last few weeks. But yeah, I saw this the other day, lads. I thought this was a good one to talk about tonight. Top 20 pundits currently on television. At the bottom of the list is Danny Murphy. At the top of the list is Gary Neville. Number 2, Roy Keane. Number 3, Ian Wright. Number 4, Alex Scott. Number 5, Mika Richards. Number 6, Rio Ferdinand. Number 7, Jamie Carragher. Number 8, Boal. Number 9, Thierry Henry. Number 10, Jamie Redknapp. 11, Peter Crouch. 12, Jermaine Jenners. 13, Emma Hayes. 14, Ali McCoist. 15, Owen Hargreaves. 16, Karen Carney. 17, Graham Souness. 18, Glenn Hoddle. 19, Dion Dublin, and of course Danny Murphy I mentioned earlier. Let's talk about pundits, lads. And this really we can dovetail into what Stephen Gerrard said about Eddie Howe this week. Very complimentary of Eddie Howe in particular. In fact, it was brought up at the press conference by one of the journalists in their questions. But Gary Neville, top pundit, lads. If it's not Gary Neville, who is your top pundit, Mitch?
For me. Ooh. Look, Roy Keane's got himself to a place with a degree of honesty about him where he doesn't give many fucks. But he only does it in certain circumstances. He knows how to play the game. And that dilutes that for me a little bit. I'm exposed here in the Middle East to a much wider degree of punditry. And there's pundits that we get out here that I think are way better than that 20 list there. Didier Domi, somebody who's maybe not high on Newcastle United's favourite people, but by God, he backs Newcastle United all the way on beIN Sports. Marcel Desailly. I could listen to Marcel Desailly all day long. Now, I'm biased. I've had the absolute privilege of having a day with Marcel Desailly. And what an absolute gentleman he is. An intelligent man. Thoughtful when it comes to football. But thoughtful when it comes to what he says about football. And I would have him way above many more on that list as well. I'm also going to chuck American goalkeeper with Tourette's, used to play for Everton. Can't remember his name. Fantastic pundit.
Howard.
Yes.
Tim Howard.
Absolutely fantastic pundit. Some of the stuff he says here in the Middle East is frank and honest and to the point, because he doesn't give a fuck about who he upsets. He's got no agenda. A lot of the people in that list there that you had have agendas. And they don't want to upset this one, they don't want to upset that one, and this, that, and the other. I've got to say, the ones we get in the Middle East here with no agenda sometimes say things that are just chef's kiss because they don't care. They'll express it honestly. Who's the other one that's out here? And he's not on that list either.
Warnock? Steve Nicol? Steve Nicol?
No, Steve Nichols. Nichols in America. Steve Warnock. You know what? Steve Warnock's okay. I actually know Steve Warnock personally through a dentist I used to work with. Who was one of his best mates. And actually, he again, because he has not much skin in the game, isn't frightened to say what he thinks. Excuse me. Yeah, Tim Howie and Robbie Mustoe. Honestly, Mark's right. As a combo out there, great. They got Shaka Hislop out there as well, and he really says it as it is, and would easily enter that list that you put up, Steve. So I think you're looking at a narrowed view, and then you've got to come to the and I'm going to say this at the risk of tiptoeing through a minefield, the female pundits that are asked to comment on the men's game. Some of them are fantastic, some of them not so. And again, I think outside of the UK, we get a better value out of that. There's a lass who hosts. She acts as the anchor for South African coverage, and we get some of that here in the Middle East. And you might have some of that if you're watching on a certain box or a little fire stick or whatever you may or may not be doing. I would have her as a host on any channel, anywhere, because by God, she knows more about football than you, me, or anybody walking into the fucking room, and she'll actually hold ex-Premier League players to account when they're talking shit. And that is fantastic to watch. It's one of the lasses off Super Sports, and she's brilliant because she will pull people up, and she's got a ridiculous lexicon in football, and also like a storage of, well, this happened and that happened, and what you're saying didn't happen.
Yeah,
and she's not frightened to go at them. And that's what we need. I don't give a monkeys whether your football pundits, male, female, whatever, just talk sense. And whoever you are interacting with, don't let them talk bollocks.
good advice. Steve, thoughts on your list? Your top pundit in football? Got half an hour left.
I like Roy Keane for the entertainment value. I think when he's on a game, Gary Neville is, in terms of analysis, is good, but he does tend to interrupt and talk too much, as does Carragher. Carragher tries to commentate as well as be the pundit alongside, who's only there to intervene. Shearer does that a little bit as well, mind. In terms of the people I like, I mean, I agree. Whenever I've been away and I've watched a game away from the UK, I've always thought that Robbie Earle and Mustoe were good. And obviously, the likes of Didier Domi, Mitch is absolutely spot on in terms of foreign, but sticking to ours, when you look at that list, I think you see a different sort of pundit on the match day as you do on the sort of post-game analysis, the Monday analysis. And I'm surprised that Sue Smith's not on that list, because I think of all the women pundits and co-commentators and speakers to do with football in the men's professional game, she's up there with she's probably the top in terms of female She never gets a look in on games, and yet the likes of Izzy Christensen can come on and gets a spot for whatever reason. Who I don't rate Karen Carney. Those are two. Alex Scott's up there at number 4. Alex Scott doesn't do games. Again, she's more of a presenter than anything else. And when she has done the odd analysis, I haven't found it that insightful. But there are pundits out there that are there for to really, like you talk about. Mitch, you said something like they had an agenda. Quite a lot of them, their agenda is to keep their position, to keep their job. That's what they're scared of. They're scared of seeing anything controversial. They're scared of having a discussion, and they're scared to criticise, especially if it's their own club, a club that they're linked to. And this is where that sort of professional bias ruins it for me. Jamie Carragher, and he's ranting on about Liverpool. The Manchester United crowd, who have taken an awful lot of stick from Man United fans recently, being accused of being with the club and then being accused of being against the club. All I would say is that what really, really gets on my nerves is when you have a game and you have two pundits, and there's a guy doing the presentation or a woman doing the presentation. You have two pundits alongside them before the game. One of them's going to go off and do co-commentary, and yet they're both there to represent usually the home team Chelsea, the home team Liverpool, the home team Man United, whenever it's Newcastle. And that gets on my nerves when I see that type of thing. And I'm thinking, could you not have evened this out? I quite like Danny Murphy's analysis on the radio. I find his analysis on Match of the Day sound. I like when you get that opportunity for them to analyse a particular incident or to talk honestly, but they tend to get carried away when they're on co-commentary duty. And I always think that the best thing for commentators is leave it to the professional, not the professional footballer, the professional, unless it's Ali McCoist, in which case just give Ali the mic and let him do the whole game.
George, have you got a favourite?
Yeah, I mean, I've got to be honest, Ali McCoist would be a lot higher up that list for me than a lot of the others, because he just talks sense, and he talks it in a way which it's very pleasant to listen to, apart from anything else. Gary Neville's not bad until it involves Manchester United, and then his objectivity goes out the bloody window. And Carragher, I wouldn't have him on the screen. He's so stiff and pushing Liverpool. It hurts. No other team gets a fair crack of the whip of him. And Roy Keane, well, I always liked Roy Keane. After last week's comment he made about Unai at Aston Villa, what he said after the match, it went up 100% because he was honest. He was the only one that called him out. What Unai said after our game about the Newcastle United and Eddie Howe and all that sort of thing was outrageous for a professional man to be talking about another club like that. And Roy Keane called it out straight away. When he was sitting there, he was saying, "Is this really football? Is this what football's about now?" And I it just took him up another stage. And I agree with Steve. Sue Smith in terms of the women's good. Alex Scott's a good presenter, but nowhere near being a commentator. So we've got a good few, but there are people in that list who are far too high, in my opinion, and one or two who are being given a hard time for no reason. Danny Murphy, I'm quite happy to see him at the bottom because his dislike of Newcastle United comes out every time we play. Every time we play. If we get a goal and the other team starts to attack, he's almost begging the other team to score against Newcastle United. Whatever we've done to that poor lad, whether somebody frightened him or he's a black and white dog frightened his mother when he was in the womb, I don't know, but he certainly comes across as disliking Newcastle United, and that's the end of him, obviously, for me, as far as I'm concerned. He just might as well drop off the list altogether. So there are some good ones that express their views, their professional views, and their wider views very, very succinctly and are worth listening to. But there are others who are there, like Carragher. I don't know why he's there, to be perfectly honest. And as I say, Gary Neville's good until he's talking about Manchester United, and his objectivity just goes out the window. And the worst of all, A, for his droning, appalling voice, and again, his pro-Arsenal commentary, is Alan Smith. Oh, what an awful character he is, really. He drones and still gets back on. I don't know how it happens, but don't know how it happens, but it's an interesting topic though. It's well worth talking about, because it can interfere quite dramatically on your enjoyment of the game or wherever it is that you're watching.
Yeah, of course it can. Okay, time to look ahead to the match against Liverpool. Newcastle United do take on Liverpool tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, live on TNT Sports. It is the first time we've met since the start of the season, when, of course, Liverpool won a really exciting game by 3-2 in the 10th minute of second half added time. Newcastle United's injuries starting to clear up a little bit, it has to be said. We got information from Eddie Howe today to tell us that Tyne Livramento is on schedule for a return in March. Lascelles and Kraft weren't asked about, but still no further forward with either of those two. Jacob Murphy is certainly on the mend. He was involved, of course, at PSG on the bench, but they are treating him carefully. But he's on his way back. Dan Burn came through the game unscathed. Bruno is pretty much on his way back as well, but may not be risked at Anfield. But a lot of food for thought with Eddie, because the team certainly didn't let him down against PSG. So a lot of food for thought, and he's got options, which is nice. Liverpool are missing Connor Bradley, Joe Gomez, Ibrahim Konate, Giovanni Leone, Jeremy Frimpong, and a Swedish bloke who his name's just gone out of my mind. And and the Reds are winless in all 5 of their Premier League games in 2026 since a 2-1 home win against Wolves in late December. 4 draws, followed by a 3-2 defeat at Bournemouth last time out. Ahead of the game, though, they have won against our Champions League opponent, our next Champions League opponent, Karabag. They beat them 6-0 at home in the Champions League on Wednesday night. Referee is Simon Hooper, who also took charge of the 3-2 defeat against Liverpool at St James's Park at the start of the season. And VAR is Craig Pawson. He is back. It is... I know, but there isn't a good referee. I think we're starting to accept that now. He is back after his surgery. Here's Toon Stato.
Hello there. Some stats before the game at Anfield on Saturday night. Newcastle against Liverpool tomorrow evening. Now, after that amazing draw in Paris, Newcastle will be facing Karabakh from Azerbaijan in the playoff of the Champions League. Liverpool earlier this week beat Karabakh 6-0. Actually, the last 3 times Karabakh played away from home in England, they conceded 19 goals. So, some good omens for the Magpies. However, against Liverpool, Newcastle does not have a win at Anfield since 1994 in the league and since 1995 when they won there in the Coca-Cola Cup when Steve Watson scored that legendary goal. It's now 29 games at Anfield that Newcastle didn't win in the league, which is the longest run ever in the club's history, only matched by the 29-game unsuccessful run against Manchester United between 1973 and 2013. But at the 30th attempt back then, Newcastle won thanks to that Moussa Sissoko's goal. So maybe tomorrow evening will be the game. Now Liverpool don't have a win in calendar year 2026. 5 games and no win, 4 draws and 1 loss against Bournemouth. The last time they started a calendar year with 6 games without a win was back in 1954 when they got relegated in the same year. Now Newcastle are not the best scorers away from home. 7 out of their 10 goals came in only 2 games. 4 against Everton and 3 against Burnley. Liverpool, on the other hand, scored 4 goals in the first game of the season against Bournemouth, but since then they have not scored more than 2 goals in any of their home games. Mo Salah his favorite opponent is Newcastle. He has 10 goals and 9 assists against Newcastle. If he scores or assists, he'll become the first Liverpool player to have double-digit number of goals or assists against any opponent in the Premier League. Let's hope this doesn't happen, and let's hope we break the curse at Anfield. How are the lads?
Okay, George, we'll come to you.
Well, as again from last Monday's fans forum, it even on this match it felt a bit like a funeral. But I'm going to stick by my guns and think that the lads have come out with pride again, like they did on Wednesday night, and give Liverpool a tough game. They're entitled to a tough game from us. The number of times we've gone close and have almost been cheated of a victory in some ways. So I'm looking forward to a good game. Very rarely do you see a bad game between Newcastle and Liverpool. A good game, which I think we'll shade by the odd goal, and that odd goal will give us the 3-2 win.
Okay, Steve.
Some great stats there from our friend.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I can't believe it. No more than 2 goals from Liverpool at home this season. It's amazing. 29 years since we won there. The records are there to be broken, as we know. So why not? That Steve Watson goal, I think that lingers and lingers. I wonder how many people in the Strawberry on Saturday night were reminding him about that when he was in with Lee Clark after the game. I'm sure quite a few did. Quite a few got their photograph taken with him. He's looking well. It's one of those games, isn't it? We're going to go back in with expectation because of the performance in midweek. The question is, will Eddie stick with what he's got? I think the formation that he played on Wednesday was specifically for the PSG. And I thought that, yes, we've analysed that game and we've looked at it and we're praising it superbly because of what happened in the second 45. But in the first 45, it took us quite a bit of time to sort of get the blend right, if you like, or to be confident enough with what we're doing. I think he'll revert back to a more solid formation. I think it's going to be interesting to see whether how we get on again against Mo Salah, who hasn't been firing in there's all season and has come back. And he's always going to be a danger man. He's always going to be. And Ekitike, if he's playing again. But the thing with Liverpool, you just don't know which Liverpool's going to turn up at the moment. I tell you what's interesting about Liverpool as well, and their fickle fans. They've suddenly got an injury and problems at right back, and then there's some of the fans who were slagging him off and now desperate to get Alexander-Arnold back on loan from Real Madrid. That's fascinating, isn't it? And they talk about Liverpool fans as supposed to have been the most educated and intelligent in the country at times, or at least people tell us that anyway. Absolute bunkum. But I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I don't know why. I think it'll be a draw, and I'm going to go 1-1. I think we can play it tight with them. I'd love to think we can come away with all 3 points, but I think on this occasion I'm going to hedge my bets. I'm going to sit on the fence and go 1-1, Steve.
Yeah, I went 2-2 last night with Gibbo. Mitch, what's your feelings on this game?
Without what happened on midweek versus what happened at the weekend, my whole mindset has shifted. And that we've given Slot something to think about. Who's turning up? What formation's turning up? What are we going to do? Who's going to play where? It says to him, we may not be as predictable as you think we are. They're not playing well. They are struggling. Said this before about other situations. This is probably a really good time to turn up and play them. So I think whatever happens, it's about the shift that the players put in, and how we can nullify their threats, but then be a threat to them as well. I would hate to see us be far too passive in this.
Yeah.
I think we need to be aggressive. I think we need to go at them. I think we need to see where their weaknesses are, and they've got weaknesses there. They're not right at the back. They're not right in midfield. They're even not right up front. So let's look at where we can exploit this and go at them. With all that said, I'll take a hard-fought draw.
I think their weakness is their cockiness at times as well, Mitch.
Yeah. Oh, mate, I would love to smear that all over their face.
The weakling's Van Dijk. That's what we need to get into Van Dijk nice and early.
Well, yeah, I get you. Totally get you.
What's the dice say, Mitch?
The dice says... Ooh. The dice says 1-1.
1-1, yeah. I think most people would look at this as a potential draw, especially after the performance and put in against PSG. Interesting to see what formation he goes with. But
I'm going to say 1-0 to us and fuck them.
1-0 to us. Great stuff. Okay.
Before we go, I just obviously it just popped up on the timeline that the first game against Karabakh is on the 18th of Feb, which is a Wednesday, at 5:45 kickoff. The away leg, and the home leg is an 8 o'clock kickoff on Tuesday the 24th.
Great.
So
thank you, Steve. No excellent stuff. Great stuff. Looking forward to seeing those who are going to the Beardsley night. See you all there. Obviously, we're raising money for Age UK. Should be a cracking night tonight. And back tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock with Three's a Crowd. And the Professionals is back at its normal time on Sunday night with me, Mitch and Stu at 5 o'clock when we'll be looking back at the Liverpool match. Thanks to everybody who tuned in, and take care. Enjoy your weekend. See you all soon.
Thanks, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you.